Let's go on to the next question. Right, question 8. You can see there's a lot of text there, so let's come back to it shortly. Okay, we've got cumulative frequency here, so nice topic, lots of text there. So again, we will come back to this, revisit this, takes a bit of time. Question 10, again, lots of text, so we will skip it, come back to it. If you like algebra, simultaneous equations, we've got that there. So that's also something that is easy to do, but we'll come back to it later. You've got circle and a rectangle inside each other. You've got another triangle, so you can see you've got a triangle with an angle, length, so something's missing, so a little bit harder there. You've got question 14, algebraic fractions. Question 15, you can see you've got quadratic sequence. Histogram, so that's interesting, histogram, we'll come back to this. You've got question 17, show that the equation this can be written in the form that. So this looks like a very complicated question, but actually it's quite simple. So let's try this one. I'll give you a few seconds to try it, a few moments. All right, so what you may notice is you've got x to the power 4 and you've got a fourth root. So what we're really doing is we want to remove these two items. So if we take, let's do this one here first, minus x squared to the other side, what we're really doing is we're adding x squared. It becomes, the negative then becomes positive, so it becomes x squared positive. And same thing here, when we take the minus 5 to the other side, it just becomes positive, so you got plus 5 there. X to the power 4 stays as it is, so you've got that there. You can see we're getting closer to this. Then what's the opposite of to the power 4? The inverse of to the power 4 is the fourth root, x squared plus 5. Okay, and you can see this now matches that. So we will revisit. So we have answered this question. Now part B does take longer to do, so we will revisit this. Let's carry on. Question 16, we've got that there. Histograms again. Going backwards rather. Okay, so here we've got question 18, which is you've got a ratio with parts, so we'll come back to that. This question here, you've got a right angle triangle with an angle, which means that this is trigonometry. And then you've got the wording here, a lower bound, so we're going to look at bounds. Here you can clearly see that is vectors. And then we have this here, question 21. Okay, so here is the graph of y equals f of x. On the grid below, draw the graph of y equals f of x minus 4. So this is something, transformation. So if I put here y equals f of x, this is actually a reasonably quick question that we can do reasonably quickly. So I'll give you a few seconds to try that question. Okay, so because we've got minus 4, what we are doing is this part here relates to the y-axis, and it's going down 4 units. Okay, so we're just going to be shifting the graph 4 units down. So if we look here, the base of this shape is on 0, so we just need to shift it down 4 spaces. So if we are on 0, and we're shifting 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces down, our base comes here. 1, 2, 3 squares. Okay, so we've got our base there. And then we can just draw the shape. You've got one diagonal and a second diagonal. So we've got a trapezium here. So we can have our one diagonal, our second diagonal, and then we've got that there. Okay, so you've got that there. So that is a nice 1 mark question. A few seconds to do. Right, part B. On the grid, draw the graph of y equals minus f of x. So that's not too bad. Again, I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Off you go. Okay, so if I write here y equals f of x, and underneath it I write this y equals f of minus x. What I'm saying is the x values change signs. So if you think about this, if the signs are changing, these negative numbers now become positive. So in a way, this is being flipped over. So you've got a mirror line here. So what's happening is you've got 3 units here, and then you've got your diagonal and your diagonal, and then you've got your roof of your trapezium. There you are. Right. So you can see that there are some questions, even though this is question 21, it's actually quite quick. Here we've got lots of text, so we're going to skip that. This question here, you've got similar shapes, similar triangles, so a lot going on here. And then the final one is this one here. So you can see last question. So it's not going to be a quick question in this case. It's not a quick question. So now we can revisit all of the questions that we started off with. And our brain is kind of warmed up to some of these questions. So they might actually be easier than we first started with. So let's look at question 3 we skipped. So let's look at question 3. We are now going back to that question. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to try that question. Okay, let's go through this question. There are 48 counters in a bag. There are only red counters and blue counters in the bag. The number of red counters to the number of blue counters equals 1 to 2. Helen has to work out how many red counters are in the bag. She says there are 24 red counters in the bag because 1 is half of 2 and 24 is half of 48. Is Helen correct? You must give a reason for your answer. So a lot of text there. Let's decipher this. Let's break this down. There are 48 counters in a bag. There are only red counters and blue counters in the bag. So that's fine. The number of red to blue counters is 1 to 2. So how many parts do I have altogether? I have 3 parts. Helen has to work out how many red counters are in the bag. She says there are 24 red counters in the bag because 1 is half of 2 and 24 is half of 48. Is Helen correct? So there are 24 red counters, 1 is half of 2. So what we can see is she is halved it, but it's not halving, there's 3 parts altogether. So there are 24 red counters in the bag. So you've got 48. 48 divided by 2 is 24. That's not the case because there are 3 parts. You have to do 48 divided by 3. So that is where she has gone wrong. So is Helen correct? The answer is no. And we have to say there are 3 parts altogether. 48 divided by 3 equals. What does that equal? Just get your calculator out. 48 divided by 3 equals 16. There are 16 counters. Let's go to question number, the next question, which we've answered because it was quite easy. Let's go to the next one. All right, question 5 we have answered, so let's go to question 6. Last year, a family recycled 800 kilograms of household waste. 57% of this waste was paper and glass. Weight of paper recycled to the weight of glass recycled is 12:7. Calculate the weight of glass the family recycled. So lots of information. Again, let's kind of break this down. We've got 800 kilograms of household waste. So let's put it into a box diagram. So we've got 800 kilograms. 57% of this waste was paper and glass. So we've got 57% is paper and glass. The weight of paper recycled to the weight of glass recycled, so paper to glass, is 12:7. So of this section, 12 parts are paper and 7 parts are glass. Calculate the weight of the glass. Calculate the weight of glass the family recycled. So glass is this little portion. We've got this little portion out of all of that. So you can see it's going to be a small kind of percentage. So let's break this down. So we need, first of all, find out what is this. So it's 57% of 800. So we can do 800 times by 57%. So we can use our calculator. 800 times by, you can see the percentage, there's a percentage button there. So I'm going to press shift and the percentage. 57% is 456. If you are not familiar with using the percentage button, just divide by 100. This is 0.57. Okay, so now this is 456. Now there are how many parts altogether here? 12 plus 7 parts. 12 plus 7 parts gives me 19. So what I can now do is I can use a fraction. I can say 7 out of 19. And I can multiply this by 456. So I can do 456 times by bracket 7 divided by 19. Gives me 168. Okay, now you can do this. I could have done just 456 divided by 19, then times by 7. It would give me the same answer. So my final answer is 168. Okay, do we have time for one more question? I'll give you a few moments to do that question. Okay, let's go through this question. Tamzin buys a house with a value of £150,000. The value of Tamzin house increases by 4% each year. Rachel buys a house with a value of 160,000. The value of Rachel's house increases by 1.5% each year. At the end of 2 years, whose house has the greater value? You must show how you work your answer. So Tamzin buys a house with a value of 150,000. So let's just put it in a bar model. This is 100%, and we've got 150,000. Okay, the value of Tamzin house increases by 4% each year. So you've got 4% there. Rachel buys a house with a value of 160,000. So Rachel's house is, we have 160,000. Oops, 160,000. Let's have these two similar, and this is 100% at the top. The value of Rachel's house increases by 1.5% each year. So increases by a smaller amount, 1.5%. At the end of 2 years, whose house has the greater value? So what I've got is I've got 100% plus 4%, that's 104%. And I've got this here, 100% plus 1.5% is 101.5%. Okay, since we are familiar, we use multipliers. Let's also write this as a multiplier, 1.04, 1.015. So we want the value after 2 years. So the first year is 150,000 times by 1.04. The second year is the same number. So I'm just going to multiply this again. And then I can see what I get. 150,000 times by 1.04 times by 1.04 gives me 162,240. The next one is 160,000 times by 1.015, and again, end of 2 years, so it's the same percentage, 1.015. 160,000 times by 1.015 times by 1.015 gives me 164,836. So at the end of whose house has the greater value, you can see this is greater than that one, and this is Rachel. So Rachel's house has the greater value. Okay, so usually we have a communication mark here. So this would be a communication mark. We need to make sure we add that in there, and then you've got the relevant numbers. Just looking at the clock, do we have time for any more? I think our time is up for today. Remember, if you haven't subscribe to the channel, and we will do more sessions. I will be doing more sessions this week, most likely, if not every day, every other day. So do subscribe to the channel, and then you will just get the live feedback. Until the next one. Assalamu alaikum. Bye-bye.